Hey kids, do you love Wario? And what if I told you that Wario got his own 3D platformer? Like Mario 64? Yep. And what if I told you it was developed by Treasure? Who's Treasure? Well, they made Gunstar Heroes and Sin and Punishment and Radiant Silvergun. Wow, that sounds awesome. It does, doesn't it? Well, it's Wario World for the Nintendo GameCube. So, quick synopsis. Wario World is a 3D platformer like Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie, starring Nintendo's favorite bad boy, Wario. And Wario had previously starred in a string of 2D platformers for the Game Boy family and Virtual Boy, and Wario World was the first time he got bumped up to a console game that, wasn't a puzzle game. The game was developed by Treasure, who are best known for fast-paced shooting games like Gunstar Heroes, Sin and Punishment, and Ikaruga. They're a developer with a real pedigree, though Wario World is a bit of a departure for them. So the game starts with Wario sitting in his throne room, cackling at his load of jewels and gold and other treasures he's accumulated over the years, as one does when one is a maniacal hoarder of riches. But oh no, one of the jewels in his collection is actually sentient and it's evil and it turns all of Wario's treasure hoard into enemies. And I love this. Yeah, it's dumb, but it's also stupidly elegant. Imagine the boardroom meeting to greenlight Wario World. Well, what does Wario love more than anything? Money. But what if money was his enemy? So despite the elevation from 2D platformer to 3D platformer, Wario World does not have a free-roaming world like Super Mario 64. Instead, the camera is relatively fixed, so it's closer to Super Mario 3D World or Crash Bandicoot. And a big thing in the Wario Land series is that Wario doesn't get hurt by his enemies. Instead, enemy attacks transform Wario in ways that help him traverse the world. Stuff like he gets squashed by an enemy and now he's a spring, so he jumps high, or he gets fed donuts and he gets fat and he can break blocks below him. It's a unique spin on the traditional concept of power-ups and enemy encounters, and it helps to differentiate Wario games from Mario games and other platformers. So, do any of the transformations make their way into Wario World? Absolutely not. Wario World is ostensibly a brawler. Walk from one open area to beat up enemies, then another open area full of enemies. There are, generally speaking, two types of enemies. Enemies that take, one hit, and enemies that need to be knocked down and then picked up and thrown. The second type does have different attack patterns, so they're more interesting, but they're still defeated the same way. Knock them over, throw them. And it's disappointing because there's not much variety of the enemy encounters, and especially disappointing given the developer's history. There's also some platform jumping, but all of it feels really clumsy and imprecise. So the purpose of the game, though, is to get jewels. Each level has 8 treasure rooms which are hidden throughout the level. You have to find and complete at least 3 treasure rooms and get to the end of the level to finish the level. Otherwise, you have to go back and find the treasure rooms. And the treasure rooms are sort of like separate Zelda shrines or portal test chambers, both in their aesthetic minimalism and in the way that they each explore one game mechanic, but, less involved. These are some of the more interesting parts of the game mechanically, but they're visually underwhelming and divided off into separate rooms instead of integrated in the main part of the levels. So when it was released, most of the critics commented on the game being too short and too repetitive, which, yeah, that's pretty accurate. There's only 4 worlds and each world has 2 levels and then a boss fight. That's it. The levels are very long though, easily over 15 to 20 minutes each. And there's a lot of visual diversity in the levels, like one single level goes from a spooky forest to a graveyard to an underground factory, but, maybe break them into smaller levels. Because for word of mouth reviews, saying a game has 8 levels and 4 boss fights just makes it sound like a bad value. And sure, today I'd rather have a game that doesn't overstay its welcome, that gets in and gets out, and if that means it's 2 hours, then great. But Wario World, despite its short length, gets tedious with its repetitive enemy encounters and its dull platforming. Overall, Wario World is just a disappointment. It's not bad, it's just not up to the quality you expect from Nintendo or Treasure. Treasure is world-renowned for their fast-paced games and tight controls. This is the team that made Gunstar Heroes, the best game on the Sega Genesis. They made Astro Boy for GBA, they made Bangai-O, and they delivered a clumsy, repetitive 3D platformer. Thank you for watching That Was a Game, and we'll see you again next time.